What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Krash and Thunders. I am your host, Krash, and unfortunately for this interview, our buddy Thunders wasn't able to make it here. He's doing some other things and not feeling it real well. But for this interview, we got the hometown hero of York, Pennsylvania, you can say, Mr. Gordon Tittsworth of Images of Eden. And we welcome you to the show, my man. How are you doing?
Doing great, brother. Thanks so much for having me, and great to be the hometown hero.
Yeah, man, of course. Just we're happy here to have you. So as people might not know you, you are Gordon Tittsworth, and you are part of the metal band Images of Eden. If you want to give any background information on Images of Eden, just to get people up to speed.
Yeah,
Before we jump in here.
I mean, there's a lot of background, so I try to kind of condense it. We actually I formed the concept right around 1998. I kind of parted ways with the band at the time. And, the same story over the years. I've been in and out of bands dealing with different types of musicians. Sometimes bands work out, sometimes they don't, but there's usually some kind of issue that causes some sort of friction. And eventually, a lot of times we deal with either unreliable people or addictions, or some people just want to take over, or just anything and everything, somebody not up to speed, reliability, anything like that. And over the years, anybody who's been in and out of bands is kind of dealing with that. And right around 1998, I was in a band, and I was kind of ready to do my own thing anyway. I've kind of felt the nudge, and I got fired from this one band. So I said, okay, this is the time to do it. So I'm going to take this vision that I have. It's very specific, and I'm just going to run with it. So I kind of recruited a session drummer who was a buddy of mine. Mm-hmm. He had a studio. I did the very first Images of Eden album where I played all the instruments and the vocals just to a session drummer. Kind of used that to form the full-time lineup. There you go. And you have one of the very few pressings. Even though it wasn't pressed, there's a very small, there you go. All right. So we used that to form the first full-time lineup. And then with each album, we kind of had a couple of hiccups until finally, after our third album, Rebuilding the Ruins, we sort of rebranded and reformed and started writing for Soulrise. Now, at this point in time, we had gained a lot of contacts and a lot of clout, to the point to where we had all the chess pieces in place to release a really good album and to get it out there. So it's been a bit of a movie. And when I talk about a movie, I'm talking about there have been 21 members of Images of Eden over the years, including current members. So it's been a lot's happened.
I was going to say, just having the discography here and just like looking at all who plays, it has been like somewhat of a revolving door.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, but like you said there, this first album here, I am so glad to have one of so many pressings. It's a great album, and like you said, you got the a session drummer to help you with it, right? And you did everything else. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I seen that, and I was like, I cannot believe this for a debut album, no less. You're just going ham on everything here, except the drumming. But hey, it's a beautiful album any way you look at it, I think. So
yeah, appreciate it, man. And the best part about a first album is there's no bar that's been set. The first album, in my opinion, is always the most unbiased creative experience, because there's no bar set, there's no expectation. After you do that first album, now the bar is set, and you have something you have to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah. So, is it somewhat like a lot of people like to say, a lot of your life was put into the debut of an album? Have you run into anything like that with albums after that, like kind of like a writer's block, so to speak? Or
it's an interesting question, and no one's ever really asked that before, and I'm glad you did. Yes and no. The very first album, what I found was I had just gone through a massive ordeal just before the first album. I actually suffered from an addiction and got clean in 1997. And it was like, as soon as that happened, everything in life turned around. So it was shortly after that I was kind of compelled to do Images of Eden. I felt really strongly that there was a message that needed to be put out there. It wasn't really for my own whatever, but just it needed to happen. And the bulk of the first album, well, all of the first album was about getting through my addiction and all of the blessings that came into my life because of that. So part of those songs were actually written just at the end of my addiction, where I was in a really bad place and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it through. Songs like Stealth, Brave Horse.
Brave Horse, definitely. Yep.
Only in My World. Brave Horse talks about the struggle. I mean, Stealth was actually written with very just gloomy, just depressing lyrics. But after I got off the sauce, I kind of rewrote Stealth as sort of like the very first moment that I woke up feeling okay after the addiction. I definitely rewrote the chorus. I rewrote parts of the verses. Basically, that first day waking up, not feeling like you're going to die or you're going to go into some sort of detox or withdrawal is an amazing day in life. And that moment is how I start Images of Eden, the first day of sobriety. Now, to answer the second part of the question, I told you I get long-winded.
No problem. Keep going.
The second part of the question, each subsequent album after that, I never really had writer's block because there was always something happening. So each album after that was a snapshot in time of what I was sort of going through. And if you do look at the album sequentially, you will see that it is sort of an ongoing journey, at least for the first three albums. Like I said, status quo kind of shifted for Soulrise.
I did take notice of that, especially definitely with the first three albums. I feel like they're like, are they somewhat concept albums at the same time, or
yes?
Okay.
Well, weirdly enough, it's not something I tried to do. The very first album, Chapter 1, we called it just it was the self-titled, but after Sunlight of the Spirit, I sort of renamed it sort of for whatever reason. It just seemed to fit because the first album was thematic, like I say, about kind of getting off of addiction and all the blessings that kind of came into my life. The second album, Sunlight of the Spirit, was the first one where we had our first incarnation of the lineup. And that was sort of, Sunlight of the Spirit's an interesting album because there's a little controversy in some parts. That album was putting to death the old me, essentially. Let me explain what that means.
I kind of know where I think you're going with this. So
sort of the old addiction, kind of, looking for the rock and roll lifestyle and everything that it brings. And then after almost dying, totally changing everything. Sunlight of the Spirit kind of started off as that when I'm coming out of the funk, but there was there were a couple of songs where I was sort of killing off what I would call the dead me, where talk about any kind of heathenistic lifestyle and whatnot. It was kind of sort of putting that to death just before the 3-part song Sunlight of the Spirit. So I've actually gotten a little bit of criticism back in the day, and I was just like, some people rush to snap judgments when they think they know what something's about. I've never been able to actually explain this, so that was what that is. So, but as far as that, I tell you what, the third album, when you talk about a concept, this is a creepy album, Rebuilding the Ruins. I'd like to go into some detail about this one.
All right. Yeah.
After Sunlight of the Spirit, we had a pretty decent lineup for Sunlight of the Spirit, and we played out a lot for that album. And then after that album, we started working on Rebuilding the Ruins. And there was, the band pretty much imploded at that point. The drummer said, well, you know what? I can't continue. I'm not going to continue. I need to take a break. The bass player followed him. And the guitar player said, well, if 2 of the guys are bailing, I'm not sure where I stand now. So I thought, here I am again with Chapter 1, just reforming a band from scratch. But the thing was, now I knew how to do it. So, and I had a lot more contacts at the time, so it wasn't any problem. What I did for that album, I said, well, now that I don't have a band, I can take my time recording and tracking this because I had all the musicians ready to go. But the funny thing about this album, a phenomena started. Whenever I write a new album, I usually just wait for stuff to hit me. And then I open a brand new Word document on my computer and just start unloading. Sometimes a stream of consciousness typing, sometimes it's ideas, sometimes it's flows, sometimes it's descriptions of stuff, of how I want the song to go. With this album, it was very strange. It was almost as if every time before I went to sit down to start typing, it was like I would get this little knock, this little sit down. I've got something that's got to come through.
Yeah.
I said, okay. I sat down, I started typing. And when I would type, it would just be stream of consciousness. And several of those songs were just almost one take, writing 4 lines, typing 4 lines. I would just empty my mind and just start typing, empty my mind and just start typing. And after about 6 or 7 songs deep, I'm thinking there is something happening here that I can't logically explain. And it doesn't seem like it's something that is just from my head.
Yeah.
You'll hear people when you interview celebrities, sometimes they'll say, sometimes I feel like I'm just, the information's being channeled through me or something like that. And it's kind of creepy to say, but it is.
Yeah. There's definitely truth to that. Yes.
And what I'll tell you, because I'm a believer in the man, and at the time I was not as much, but wanted to when I was writing Ruins. But when I got about 70% done the lyrics of this album, I kind of stepped outside of the box one day and kind of looked in and just started reading it again to see what it was, because I knew something was happening that I couldn't explain.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where it got creepy. I saw that the album lyrics were forming. They were already mostly in sequential order, forming a story. And when I looked at it, there were a couple of holes that needed to be filled in, but they were kind of obvious holes. So as I was going, I just sort of filled in whatever was left.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand the story. It was very specific, though. I reached out to multiple people at the time to kind of get a take on what it was. And at the time, I wasn't really, a believer in much. I was sort of a science guy, prove it to me and I'll believe it.
Yeah.
So anything other than that, I had weird experiences, but that's for whatever it's worth. And a couple people, one specifically pulled me up and said, do you realize how much biblical imagery is all throughout this album? And I said, no, I don't read the Bible. And he said, well, here's a list. And I'm going through this, and I knew something was happening because I was using phrases and terminology that I personally didn't understand. Phrases and sort of ways I don't speak. And I kind of I'm straightforward. And some of the stuff was just, it was like, it just didn't come. It felt like it didn't come from me. It felt like it was not the way I would normally speak. Imagery I didn't understand. And then, but so I kind of shelved that. And I said, I'm going to have to come back to this album at a later date. It's still intriguing me. I know there's something huge behind it, but I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew there was something huge, the lyrics were so finished that I couldn't omit any. I had to build all the music around the lyrics, which is why I came to a 74-minute album.
Yeah, I was going to say it is a very long album.
Yeah. Hold that thought on Rebuilding the Ruins, and I'll come to that.
Okay.
But when we talk about Soulrise and Angel Born, I can get a little more light. But actually, I got to say, fast forward to about 2015. All of a sudden, man, I'm looking at this story again, and I'm like, what is Rebuilding the Ruins? What is it? And how do I put this so that I don't lose people? It was almost as if I was smacked in the face, because by then I did become a believer just because of a lot of things that happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was smacked in the face, I'm going to say by him. It was almost as if it was like a foreign language translated to me. It was as if the lyrics to Rebuilding the Ruins that I never understood were fully translated to me.
Yep.
And let me explain what it was. In 2005, we moved to Pennsylvania from Maryland, and had gone through a lot of things. And around 2012, we moved several states away. So we did a little moving around on the East Coast. And then we came back in 2013 to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And 2013, 2016. Yeah, 2013, we moved away.
Okay.
Sorry, the crazy timeline. Well, what I was reading in the lyrics, the very first song, Crosses in the Sand,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a sequential story of everything that happened to me starting in 2006 when we moved here. Crosses in the Sand was sort of like that old life, sort of like the Sunlight of the Spirit days being killed off, the sort of heathenistic,
Yes.
life.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
I can hear that through the song as well. Yep.
and then the song Human Angels. Now keep in mind this album was released in 2011.
Hmm.
The song Human Angels starts off basically in winter of 2012 when we moved out of state. One day I'm reading all of the lyrics of Rebuilding the Ruins in sequential order, and it was about 2015. And what I'm seeing is very specific timelines, very specific things that have happened to me. It was as if all of it was documented before it happened. And I'm reading the lyrics and it's creeping me out because it is extremely accurate from a timeline perspective, a sequential perspective, and it's as if there's no fallout or anything. Mm-hmm. And when I'm reading it, it's 2015, and I know exactly where I am in the sequential story. I'm right in the middle of the song Rebuilding the Ruins.
Yep.
So when we got home in 2016, I had gone through some stuff when we were out of state, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but it was pretty intense. 2016, we returned to PA. Now I'm to the song Native to His Land. Mm-hmm. I have just gone through a major transformation in the last 4 years. While I was out of state, we came back to Pennsylvania. And if you look at the liner notes, the beginning of Native to His Land, it says, "We shall not cease from our exploration, but when we reach the point to where we started, we will know the place from the first time." I was returning to Pennsylvania and seeing it for the first time again, 5 years after this was written in the album.
Yeah, definitely. That is definitely a highlight song on that album. I do like that song a lot.
Now you see where I'm going with this. So now I'm looking at the rest of the lyrics of the album going, what's going to happen next? Now I could go into a whole big spiel about what every song means, somewhere different, but so anyway, I'm just sort of following it. And I kind of try to not, in my own personal opinion, I don't really listen to that album much. I don't really even pay attention to it just because it's a little haunting for every reason why I gave you.
Yep. Yeah. A little too close to your heart, so to speak, Yeah. I kind of want to revisit that, the events that led up to that.
No problem. We will. One thing I will tell you, the creepiest part about that album is the very end of the last song, where basically the character dies. Mm-hmm. The character dies when the job was finished. And if you read that, it's very specific.
Yes.
Needless to say, it was made very clear that that album is basically what I'm going through now and still going through.
Yeah, definitely. That is a very, like you said, a very long album, very intense album as well. And it definitely does deserve to be listened to. It does deserve to be in people's collections. But if I just want to, if I can just touch again on the first two albums and how you said you were kind of like killing your old self into the second album here, and that's what the second album shows. I kind of feel that musically as well, and somewhat lyrically. Like your lyrics on all the albums are somewhat very similar and the same, but like musically, I think it made a little bit of a shift as well. Because like on chapter 1, the debut, it's more of a Queensryche meets Iron Maiden type feel album, and short and sweet. You get the point and you get out, basically. And with Sunlight of the Spirit, it's very Dream Theater / Rush feel musically.
Sure.
And longer songs, you double your length in most of the songs compared to the first album. And I just kind of like was wondering like what exactly brought that up, and that's basically what you just explained to us then.
Actually, I have a little more to say about that. Funny enough, this will make you laugh a little bit, man. When I was writing for chapter 1, I was writing for that over the course of basically 1996 through 1998. That was pre-digital recording, man. I had a 4-track recorder with a tape, a cassette. So it was hard to lay down full compositions. It worked out well for me because it was not too hard to write a 4-minute, 5-minute song. And the same thing happened with Sunlight of the Spirit. I was recording it the same way. But when I moved to Rebuilding the Ruins, I had a full studio setup. And that's why some of the songs are long, because you can always build on top of it. 4-track cassette recording, demoing is, ancient. But that's why I think everything got kind of complex and sort of, I guess, needing Dramamine when it comes to Rebuilding the Ruins.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yes, and like I said, both are great in their own right. But I usually tend to hit more towards the shorter stuff, and but like I said, both are lyrically great, both. And I love the back-to-back punch on the first album of Return to Twilight and September.
Yeah.
I think September is probably my favorite song of Images. And I think that could be a radio hit nowadays. I think somehow, I don't know, I know people don't like to revisit like their old stuff and like re-record again, and for good reasons and such, but I think people need to hear this song again. I love September. It's, well, everyone I showed it to, man, love it.
I'll tell you this, I'm kind of toying with a few ideas. Anything can happen, let's just put it that way.
Okay. All right. That's a good answer. I mean, because as long as it's not, I'm never gonna sing that song, never gonna do that song again, or whatever. But all right, yeah, that's cool, man. So let's kind of like talk about why you're here now. The new album, Angel Born, just released this past year, and it just, if I read that correctly, it's in May. It went to the top 20 in the U.S. metal charts, or
we actually topped out last month at number 19 at U.S. metal.
Okay,
which is great. We cracked the top 20, and I mean we were on the charts awesome. with veteran metal bands in the scene. I mean, I'm just thinking Gojira. There just happened to be one of them there, a bunch of names that I recognize. I don't want to say the wrong names, but a bunch, when you look down the charts, I'm looking at 20s and 30s, and I'm seeing way more famous bands than us, and we're number 19. So I'm thinking, wow, we're doing something right here, right now. But yeah, awesome. we pushed a hard radio campaign, and it really worked out. So we're shifting gears to Europe now, because we've kind of done everything we can do with U.S. radio until we go on tour. Now, when we go on tour, we're running a brand new radio campaign for the U.S. as well as a big radio interview campaign.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So, do you mind telling fans how how you guys pretty much what made the Triumph song "Fight the Good Fight"? I believe it was the song. Yeah. How did that come about to making it on the album?
It was funny, man, because we had the album written and it was just pretty much done being recorded. Steve, our drummer, had, we pay attention to signs, man. We pay attention to everything.
Yeah.
And we were actually working with this video promotion platform, and for our previous album, Soulrise, and it was right around Christmas time, and the guy sent us a card, say, "Hey man, great working with you guys. Keep fighting the good fight." And then there was another day where something happened, and Steve just saw that same, "Hey, you're fighting the good fight." Mm-hmm. And then it just hit him. We have to remake Triumph's Fight the Good Fight. He hit me with it, and I said, "Yes, I love that song. I've always loved that song. Thank you for not even asking if I could hit those notes."
Yeah, I have faith in you, man. I have faith.
So the thing was, we weren't even going to put it on the album. We were literally just going to track this song, do a video, put it out as a promo before Angel Born dropped, just to kind of get buzz going. Mm-hmm. But what we did was we showed it to our label, and they said, "Guys, it's like this. You got to put it on the album." And we were like, "Oh man, and if you've heard Angel Born, so you understand there's a very definite beginning and end bookend."
Exactly.
And you cannot put it at the end. And I said, "Listen," I go, "we're not really, we don't really want to do that, because the end's got a very specific ending." And then we started thinking, we were like, "Wait a minute, let's slap it in the middle. It doesn't have to be at the end." So we decided, yes, let's put it on the album. And it was actually a very good decision. I mean, the band Triumph actually heard it They loved it so much, they contacted us for the original master recording so they could put it on their YouTube channel, Triumph Allied Forces. What better
It don't get
could
better
you
than
ever
that.
get
Yep.
than to have the band themselves praise you on your remake of their cover? That was amazing.
Yeah, that is awesome. It don't get no better than that, man. It's you look up to those guys, even when you were younger and such, and then now they're praising you, so to speak, and that's awesome.
It is, absolutely.
But I do totally agree that I'm glad that you didn't put that at the end, because the beginning and the end really set the tone for the album. And I love the ending. It kind of just somehow makes you revisit what you just listened to, but also you want to listen to it right away again. Like,
yeah,
it's like a movie that, just has that ending to it that just blows everything else out of the water, and you got to rewatch it a couple more times just to, totally understand what happened.
That's what I was hoping for. And, anyone who hasn't heard it, definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear it, I mean, the whole album, I mean, I would say Angel Born and Soulrise, because we kind of skipped over Soulrise. These two albums are about healing. I'd like to kind of bridge the gap between Ruins and Soulrise, if you don't mind, bro.
Yep, go ahead.
After rebuilding the Ruins and everything that was, a lot happened. And I had done some vocals for hire for a couple of bands. I was in the middle of writing for the fourth album, which would become Soulrise. But something really crazy happened, because when I was writing for Rebuilding the Ruins, I was in this huge progressive metal, crazy twists and turns, where I was listening to heavy Dream Theater, Blind Guardian, a lot of vocal layering and all that stuff. And that was kind of where my head was at the time. But it was really strange. I've always been a big progressive metal fan. But after that album, it was almost as if my wiring just there was a shift.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to write long songs anymore. I didn't want to write technical, crazy stuff. I started playing 7-string. I started listening to some modern metal like Killswitch Engage, Tremonti, stuff like that. And I'm thinking, I'm really liking the low end, sludgy, chunky, meaty 4-minute songs that'll just make you lose your mind. I liked heavy grooves like Seven Dust, Pantera. I've been a big fan forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something happened as soon as I started writing on that 7-string, and everything changed. And so I started focusing on shorter songs, but definitely getting to the meat, and which is where I am now. And so that's kind of what we did with Soulrise and then to Angel Born. But the thing is, these albums, in my opinion, have more depth, like I said, that I think, than the older ones, because these albums are very specifically about healing. It's been a rough world over the last few years, and we are very specific with our message, and we're all about lifting others. We're not, we under no circumstances go with the grain. I mean, everything about what we do is unconventional. We've got 5 band members that live in different states that all record in sort of an assembly line process. We meet up when it's time to shoot a video or tour. Everybody rehearses to basically, we all rehearse on our own. We put on, we go to our studio and we mute our parts and play along to the rest of the album. That's rehearsal for us.
Yep.
So before we play live, we fly to Phoenix. We have 2 days of rehearsals. Then we do what we need to do, and it works.
Yeah.
So,
that's very unconventional, but hey, it definitely works. No doubt about that.
Yeah. Oh, and I remember my point. Yeah. And, it was funny because right around the time of Soulrise, when we're talking about healing and lifting others up, and we've had a lot of questions. Hey, everybody says, oh, Images, you guys are Christian metal. You're Christian metal. Is that it? And I'm like, we've never put that label on us.
No.
Am I a believer? Yes, I am. Am I preaching? Are we a ministry? We've never said that we're a ministry. Now, we have a big Christian metal following, and I love that. So, we're just writing from the heart. We're uplifting. I mean, when we talk about Christian metal, to me, Christian metal is preachy, it's biblical, and there's a purpose of pushing the message to the listener. Christian metal is written by Christians for a Christian audience. That's not us. We're writing for a secular audience. Yeah. We don't preach. We don't ever preach. I don't want to be preached to. You want to impress me? Don't preach. Don't recite the Bible in your lyrics. Tell me how your life was changed without mentioning Jesus 500 times throughout the whole thing and shoving it down my throat. Tell me how he changed your life and give me your own testimonial that's going to make my hair stand up and bring me to tears. That impresses me. Don't preach to me.
Yep.
That's just kind of my own philosophy. That's my own personal thought. I know not everybody shares that, but yeah, we write for the secular audience, but we write it in a way that they will be uplifted.
Yep.
And it's been amazing. We've gotten a lot of fan testimonials, and when fans give you testimonials and tell you how your band has helped them through hard times, got them off drugs, whatever the case may be, through losing family members to cancer, nothing makes everything we do worthwhile more than that.
Oh yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
let me give you
awesome.
a quick example of a fan testimonial. And I know I've said this before, but it's so worth repeating. We had a fan that reached out to us in 2018. All he said was, "Thank you guys for saving my life." So we were like, "Care to elaborate?" And he said, "Yeah, I can." I said, "Well, hold on. Before you do, we're going to be playing a show in your area in a couple of weeks. Let's put you on the guest list and come and see us." So we met him at the show, and he said, "Listen, I'm an opioid addict. I've been on it for a long time. I've been trying to kick it. It was on my 50th birthday where I decided that's it. I'm out. I can't do it anymore. I took enough oxy to kill me, almost 20 pills." He said, "I sat by my front door knowing I was on my way out because I figured they'll find my body easily this way. I had YouTube up and somehow I came across your video as I was waiting to check out." He said, and if the video to Shield Me from Soulrise. And if you've seen the video to Shield Me, you'll see a point where there's a girl who's pretty much dead from opioids, kind of gets healed and comes back. He said, right at that point in time, I felt myself leave my body. I could see myself outside. I snapped back, and he said, all I felt was the most warm feeling of comfort that told me everything was going to be okay. And then the addiction was going to go. He was like, just started tearing up. He immediately took all of his oxy, flushed it down the toilet, called his brother who worked at a rehab facility and said, "Hey, I have to come in." His brother said, "Sure, brother, one problem. Because you took oxy, we have to send you to the hospital, get tested first to get checked out." "No problem, I understand." Ambulance shows up, takes him to the hospital. This is where there was no trace of opioids in his system on the toxicology report.
Really?
You explain to me how that happened. I'll tell you how it happened. That guy.
Yeah. There's
And
some intervention there. Yeah, definitely. Some help along the way.
And when we hear testimonials like this, we know that there is a greater force involved.
Yep.
And that's as much as I get into it. But anyway, like I said, when we hear stuff like that, and it just makes everything we do worthwhile. I'm in tears.
That's what music's all about. Should be about anyway. Just helping people, whatever they're going through. And I absolutely agree. That's awesome, man. Nothing's better than hearing stuff like that.
It is.
That's great. But yeah, I could definitely hear from what you were saying about after Rebuilding the Ruins to Soulrise, there was a little bit of a music direction change, but it was still, there were shorter songs on it, but there was still a little bit of that progressiveness still. But I think once Angel Born came along, it just packs more of a punch, a little bit in the vein of the first album, Chapter 1. And I think you guys are kind of clicking as a band on all cylinders here on Angel Born now, compared to Soulrise. Soulrise is still great. There's still great songs on that, great lyrical content on that album. But I think you guys are just starting to click a little bit better here now on Angel Born. And it's an exciting time for Images now, of course. Yep. So yeah.
The one thing about Angel Born is that Angel Born was the first album where there was only one member change from the previous lineup. And so there was lead guitar. Carlos Urquidy was our lead guitar player during Soulrise, and then we brought in Victor. Morell for Angel Born. Victor is a long time brother, great metal guitar player. Now, I do play the rhythm guitar in the studio, so
Okay.
you will notice less, I guess, disruption from Soulrise to Angel Born than any other album. But I think the biggest thing was we learned from Soulrise kind of what we needed to do just to tweak to go to next level.
Yeah.
And even with Angel Born, I'm picking up on some things that I am even trying to take to the next level with number 6 that I'm working on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, as far as Angel Born goes, we were so incredibly happy with this album. I mean, this is to date the album of our lives. It's the most personal album I've ever released. I honestly can say this: Angel Born is more personal to me than everything I've ever done combined.
Okay.
And I think that comes across very clearly in the lyrics, in the vocal delivery. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and to your point about the progressive, every end song from Images is going to be a progressive roller coaster. I always like to do that. In Memory of Me from Angel Born, Soulrise, Sunlight of the Spirit Part 4, Images of Eden, Midnight's Tide, all the end songs to me should be the epics, because that's when, you know, the roller coaster's coming to an end and you're just kind of walking it off.
Yep, exactly. Because, well, I want to ask just a quick thing I heard at the end of In Memory of Me is, does the one daughter at the end of the song, does she say, "Hey, we were waiting for me and Trooper were waiting for you"? Is that a little nod to the Trooper, Iron Maiden, at all? No? Okay.
No, it's not. It's not actually.
Okay.
But you heard, you're very you
yeah, I was observant of that, because, you know, of your other side project, you know, and I was thought, oh, maybe there's a little nod in there with that. But
now that's something I'll let lie and let the listener pick up on. But yep.
Yeah, definitely. I do like how you do put like your epics, like you said, Last Sunrise. That's a awesome song, beautiful song. In Memory of Me is great, and the 3-part end to Sunlight of the Spirit, awesome. But yeah, definitely. And also I want to say, you kind of, like I said, you brought back more elements of the first album, Chapter 1, into this album, which I think which threw it up in the rankings for me as well. And
you're right, man.
Because like, even with like the song If, very, very Brave New World / Dance of Death from Iron Maiden feel to it. Like, I feel like that song could be on one of those albums and it would fit right in.
You know, that was the first song I wrote for Angel Born, and still probably one of my top 4 favorite songs I've ever done for Images. Mm-hmm. A lot of these songs were written right after I went through a pretty brutal, devastating loss that was very sudden. So when I listen to some of these songs and even kind of sing some of them, it takes me right back there, and it gets pretty intense. And songs like If, the title track, Angel Born, In Memory of Me, I mean, those are pretty intense songs for me. Yep. But to your point about Chapter 1, it was funny because Chapter 1, even a couple albums in, I always thought this is just like, that song was just that album, in my opinion, was just a variety of different sounds. Yes. It was a very diverse album. And when I was working on Angel Born and we were like neck deep in recording it, I'm thinking, this album reminds me of Chapter 1 in that it's the most diverse album from song to song. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because Soulrise was more heavy, Soulrise was more streamlined. I kind of just wanted to keep the momentum and beat you over the head mostly, give you a couple of breaks. But this was just, it was weird. It was almost like that new bar was set of, I didn't even care about the creative aspect. I'm just going to just do it. And I don't even care if I outdo anything. And I think that's probably why, one of the reasons why Angel Born kind of became successful from the standpoint of being diverse.
Yes. Yeah.
Tongue-tied here.
Definitely. It is definitely diverse as well. Like even, like I even picked up just previously, just how I said Trooper, you know, just like a lot of lyrics, everyone can see a different view of those lyrics as well. It's not so concept based, so to speak, you know.
Exactly. And one thing I try to do too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
All right. The best way to have people be able to relate to your lyrics, I think, is you can't be super ultra specific in what you're talking about. You can't talk about events and things that people don't understand because they weren't there for. In my opinion, the best way to really pull fans in so that they get it is when you write your lyrics almost as if it is a reaction to the catalyst that brought forth an emotion. Because if I give you specifics about what brought forth that emotion, it doesn't mean anything to you. But that emotion does mean something to you because you can share that same emotion. You have a different catalyst. If you read the lyrics, In Memory of Me, you know it's about a loss. You know it's about somebody who is saying, I'm okay now, and I'm giving you a message, or the message is coming from him. I'm okay now. And it's yourself working through that. I'm not saying you died. You don't care. It doesn't mean anything to you. But we've all gone through that, Yep. So to try to be able to take somebody through slightly, I don't want to call it vague, it's probably kind of a wrong word, less specific imagery, but specific emotion, it will allow them to recall that very specific emotion, and it will link them to what caused that. I try to stay in emotions that will bring forth positive feelings, peaceful feelings, because nobody wants to be brought back to a devastating loss. However, when it comes to loss, it's something we all deal with, and it's something we're all going to deal with. What I want to bring forth is the healing beyond that loss, and how to heal beyond that loss, and how we healed beyond that loss. So yeah, it's going to take you back to an unpleasant place, but it's going to help you through. We had, several fans had reached out because they had gone through losses, and one was very specific. She lost her husband probably about 6 months before Angel Born was released, and she said that song was just the ultimate in healing for her because it took her through the healing process. And if you listen to In Memory of Me, you'll notice that all 5 stages of grief are played out in sequential order in that song. Not something I even tried to do. It just happened. It happens a lot where I don't try to do something, things just kind of fall into place. So it's, hey, keep going.
That is also, like I said, the ending of In Memory of Me, just like him waking up and just hearing those other sounds and just people, it's like kind of puts even that song and just even the album in the context as well. And I love how you ended that album. That's awesome.
One thing I'll point out, and I don't want to give away Angel Born to anybody who hasn't heard it, but I do have to say this. Angel Born obviously is an album about healing. And if you know the bookends, the very first song being Autumn is Burning, it's as if when you start the album, it's kind of like you put the needle on that vinyl, that old vinyl, and you hear all the pops and crackles. The beginning of the song starts off with the pops and crackles in vinyl, and then all of a sudden you feel as if the listener, you are swept into the album itself.
It does have that feeling. I agree with that.
At the very end, you'll notice that it reverts back into the pops and crackles for the outro. So it's almost as if you're coming out of your trance, so to speak, and now being told to go on in memory of me. Now, is he dead? Or has he just moved on? Is an agoraphobic type situation where he couldn't go on and now he's got the strength to move on? Both answers would be correct depending on how you relate to the album.
And that's what brings more fans, more ears to the album as well. Just that diverseness, like you just explained. Awesome.
Got it.
So, but I kind of want to touch on you touched on it earlier, was how you were a singer for hire. Now, one of the I wasn't familiar with any of the projects that you did until I looked at all the projects that you did, and the one was, I believe, Charlemagne was the album. I could not believe that you were on that album. That album is awesome. You were Orlando, I believe, right? On that album. That when I heard that, because like I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan ever since I was like 8 years old, and I love Christopher Lee. And
me too.
When I saw that, I'm like, all right, I definitely gotta buy that album now, because I always was on the lookout for that album, but it's so hard to find, just based on Christopher Lee. But now I got another reason why to buy it, to hear you.
Well,
But,
you know what was so cool, man? I got to talk about that experience. That
go ahead.
That came at the most inconvenient time in the world. I was doing a million things and got contacted by a guy named Juan from Charlemagne Productions in the UK. And he said, hey, he just kind of explained it. Hey, we'd like to hire you to be a specific character on this song. Would you be willing to do it? And blah, blah, blah. And at the time I was like, bad timing. I got a lot going on, whatever. So I gave him an initial no, but then I researched it and I said, wait a minute. The character, this is a concept album about the King Charlemagne, and the person playing King Charlemagne is Sir Christopher Lee, the actor that I've been watching since I was a kid, who's in some of my favorite movies of all time. There's no way I'm not doing this.
Yeah, you can't say no to that.
I said, Juan, I'm in. Whatever you need, you let me know. Great. Yeah. So he sent me the instrumental, and he sent me sort of just like a guide and the lyrics, and he said, you're going to be doing your part first because Christopher Lee is now in New Zealand filming The Hobbit.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So I did all my parts, and then I had no idea what the end product was going to sound like until I heard the end, and then I heard Christopher Lee's parts on top of mine. So what that told me is when he got done filming The Hobbit, he came back to the UK, he tracked his parts, and he got to listen to me when he's tracking his parts. Christopher Lee got to hear me I just thought, man, I've been a fan of this guy my whole life. That was so awesome.
That would be awesome. I would probably personally, I would rank that higher than Triumph giving you praise.
I would too.
Christopher Lee, man, everyone loves him. There ain't no one that doesn't love him.
Yeah, but, I mean, he's knighted. He's got Guinness Book of World Records for one of the most films of all time. I mean, the guy is a legend. Yeah, the guy's a Dracula. He's a wizard. Just to take your pick. He's anything and everything. But yeah, so I guess that kind of answers my other question is you didn't get to meet him then, did you? What's that?
You didn't get to meet Christopher Lee then?
No.
At all? Ah, man, okay.
No.
Yeah, that would have just put the cherry on top right there.
It's kind of cool. Sometimes you have the luxury or the not luxury, what's the word I'm looking for? You have the blessing of being on an album with someone famous and not meet them. I mean, I did an album for band All Too Human back in 2010 called Juggernaut. Derek Sherinian played on one of the songs. It's great. I was on an album with Dave Miros and a couple guys from Spock's Beard, which is a rock opera.
Okay.
It's just there's different guest musicians on different albums. So I mean, the degree of separation is getting smaller, which is kind of cool. Yeah, that is awesome. Technology is awesome.
Exactly. For that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to. So we'll circle back here now to your images. Now, you played a lot of the instruments and vocals, obviously, on your first three albums, and then now do you still do that on the Soulrise and Angel Born? Do you have any, obviously you still have input in it, but do you come to them with a riff or a beat or do they also bring something to the song as well? Yeah, the way we do it, starting with Soulrise, because everybody was spread out by then. I have to back up a little bit. We had to kind of reform for Soulrise, and we really the only surviving members were Dean Harris and myself from Rebuilding the Ruins. So new drummer, bass player, and lead guitar player. Now, Soulrise was written and basically in the process of being tracked when we were reforming the band. And it just so happened that we reformed it with the most spot on musicians that we needed. We know this was coordinated from the guy above because this was the first time that I've ever been in a band where the lineup, there's never been a problem with anybody. 5 people who are on the same page, same direction, same belief system, same level of drive, motivation, skill. I mean, it was divinely put together, and I really feel that way. And you know it when we track the album because it was almost as if everybody's parts were naturally falling into place. Now, I did track all the demos for Soulrise, and then Steve would do the drums. I would do the real heavy guitar. I would keep the scratch vocals in. And then what I do is I send all the files that I have, real tracks and scratch tracks, to everybody.
everybody will put their parts in. They'll start tracking their parts. They'll start sending them to me. I'll start importing all their stuff. And it's just an assembly line process. Give the widget to the next person. They put their piece on, give it to the next person. And Soulrise, it was our first time doing that. So we had to kind of map out the process. Angelborn, it was flawless and fluid.
Yeah.
But the answer to answer your question, I write everything. I create all of the session shells. I've got the click track, I've got the BPM. I just, we get the drums, the guitar, and the scratch vocals, and then everybody can start their parts. And now what people do, like for example, when Eric Mulvane put his bass parts on there for the first album, for Soulrise, I would listen to his parts, and as soon as he would get to certain parts, I'm hoping he's going to do this. Yes, he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did that. It was almost as like he was in the room and he knew what I wanted. But I kind of just think we were just connected because
clicking on all cylinders.
Exactly. And occasionally, we'll have to go back and tweak a couple things, but considering how much is done remotely, we barely change. We change, it's just so minimal. It's really, we're blessed with having 5 people that are on the same page. And I think that's what does it. Yeah,
that's extremely important. Just people in the band that see eye to eye on almost everything. That's very important. To chemistry, to music, to all 9 yards in the whole band. That is awesome. But so what instrument came first, basically, or did the singing come first?
Yeah. I picked up guitar when I was 13. I wanted to be a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
I was into Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, and Jimi Hendrix, and I said, I want to be a guitar player. I just want to just shred and melt your face off. Then when I started taking lessons, it was funny because my guitar teacher said, you know what you should do? You should maybe try to work on your voice a little bit, just in case you need it for academic. Just I'm gonna cut you off right there. I don't want to sing. I don't ever want to sing. I'm never going to sing. And then 3 years later, we couldn't find any singer for our band. We pulled in probably about 9 or 10 people. Nothing was what we wanted. I got so frustrated. Now, this was 16, so we were in high school. I got so frustrated. I said, let me see if I have any voice at all. And then I started off just sounding like a circular saw cutting against the blackboard. So I worked on it. And then I realized I might have something that I could develop. So let me run with this and see what happens. So over the next couple of years, I took vocal lessons and I started to realize I'm more valuable as a singer than a guitar player. But I'm glad I played guitar because I learned how to write. I learned instrumentation. I also learned the other instruments right after I was learning guitar. And then I realized those will all come in handy. That was not time wasted. Because you look at if you look at the first album, Chapter 1, I had to play everything.
Yep.
I didn't want to do that for Sunlight of the Spirit, but we didn't have a keyboard player or a bass player, so I did both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Rebuilding the Ruins, we lost our bass player that we had, so I played bass on there. So it was really convenient. I could fill in the puzzle pieces when needed. That way we wouldn't have to recruit people, and that way we wouldn't have to break up. Yep. You see bands breaking up for a million reasons. I'll tell anybody out there, learn all the instruments. That way, if somebody decides to be flaky and leave, you can fill in on their part.
Yep. And then you also know the chemistry too when you fill in for that instrument. Yeah. You don't have to bring someone else in and also have that same problem again with that person that you just brought in too.
Yep. And you know what? You already know what's supposed to be there. I wrote the guitar parts. I just translated to bass and boom, bang it out.
Exactly. Yeah. So I always found that kind of interesting, like what exactly came first for you, and to everyone, it's always different, and that it's always a wild question to ask. But so I guess we can move on here now to your tour. And you said about, well, I know that you have a couple shows coming up here with Yngwie Malmsteen in Texas, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And that's in when? July or August?
July 30th, 31st, and August 1st. So three, I think it's Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. Okay.
Yes. You're probably pretty excited to be on stage with him.
Oh man, let me tell you what this was about. I'm going to back up a little bit. For Soulrise. I just have to tell the full picture. We went on our first U.S. tour with Soulrise, with Metal Church and Doro Pesh. It was a major experience. That could be a totally separate discussion altogether. We learned a lot. It was awesome. Our label at the time, Pavement Entertainment, said, listen, guys, this was so good for you. It kicked you next level. You officially are now recognized as a signed touring national act, which is no easy feat. And no, that wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
So we were like, okay, great. And at the time, we're neck deep in Angelborn, and we're like, well, we think we've got something better on our hands. Hopefully we'll get something better. So fast forward to about 2000 and early 2020. Angelborn, we were well into it. We were about ready to film multiple videos. I mean, we were ready to put all the chess pieces in place with all the guns blazing. And then boom, March 16th, 2020, we were filming the video for Autumn is Burning, my desert crawl scene, a song about martial law, lockdown, and everything that was about to happen. And on that day was when things were starting to lock down. And that was creepy too. That was another creepy coincidence, like Rebuilding the Ruins, where we didn't know what was going to happen. And here we are. If you've seen the video for Autumn is Burning, you would think that it was done after COVID. It wasn't. It was actually filmed before COVID. The concept, the song, the lyrics, everything. It was just another one of those creepy things. So we're leaving, and we actually got a text in the middle of that shoot that the world was shutting down, and we're leaving the scene, just kind of driving back, thinking, now what? What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Are they going to shut down the world? Is the music scene done? I mean, we were really bent out of shape.
Oh yeah.
But what we realized was we can't control this. When some bands may have taken a break during COVID, we said, this is the time that we need to get this album so tweaked to perfection, tracking, mixing. Let's edit these videos. Let's get everything ready. Let's get the contracts re-signed with Pavement.
Yep.
Let's get everything ready so we've got the entire arsenal locked and loaded for when this crap ends and everything reopens and we can hit the button.
Yep.
So we were ready for Sony to say, okay, we're ready to take release orders. We put in our release for Angelborn, and then some time went by, and because there hasn't been live shows for so long, everybody is losing their mind. Everybody wants to get back out to see live shows. Well, we fell backwards perfectly into a couple of shows with Yngwie Malmsteen. So we're going to be playing for some really big crowds in Texas. Now, I will tell you this. There is an announcement, a separate, unrelated announcement about a full tour for Images of Eden later this year. This should be announced tomorrow. Of course, there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. Once this is announced, we will be able to announce it. So in the next week or two, we're about to announce a full US tour, approximately 24, 25 shows. So that's about to happen. And I believe it's going to be in November. So just understand that's all the details that I have. I can't say anything else until the headliner of this tour announces it. And then we're going to be announcing it. There are actually two headliners on this tour. And I'm going to tell you this. We've already been in contact with the agent for one of the headliners. And these are veterans in the scene. And they said this tour is going to basically be pretty much a sold out tour. So we're looking at something really, really huge for later this year. I wish I could scream it at the top of my lungs right now, but you're going to know soon enough. By the time this airs, it'll probably be common knowledge.
Hopefully we'll know tomorrow, man. That'd be awesome. I can't wait to hear who it is. Now, I do remember you touring with Striper as well. Is that correct?
We just did a one-off show with Striper, actually.
Right.
Yeah, we done a couple of one-off shows. Striper, Jeff Tate for the Operation Mindcrime.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay, cool. And now, I kind of want to ask the question on the back of that, as far as of all the people that you are bands that you played with now on stage and such, what fan base was the most welcoming to you, so to speak, and your music?
It's funny because 3 one-off shows that we did were extremely, it was insane. It was like our perfect audience. We did a show with the Iron Maidens. And I bet you know how much I like Iron Maiden.
Oh, so. Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, for people that don't know, Gordon here does East Coast. He goes around the East Coast here and does Maiden America, full tribute to Iron Maiden, and it sounds Very good. Every time they come around here, I'm there. I'm first one there, man. Last one to leave. Too.
Right on. And doing the Maiden tribute it's basically like vocal weightlifting. There was no way I'd be able to do a full 20 to 25 show tour night after night without that. And but exactly. to your point, I mean, we played. I mean, our fan base is basically any fans of Iron Maiden, Queensryche, are going to be fans of ours. And we've played with Jeff Tate when he did the whole Operation Mindcrime album. Perfect target audience.
Yep.
Iron Maiden, perfect target audience, the type of thing. And Stryper being Christian metal and us being very uplifting and whatnot. Again, another perfect target audience. Yep. So, and by the way, I mean, Michael and Robert Sweet from Stryper were two of the coolest rock stars you will ever meet in the world. I mean, just totally laid back guys.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Sweet Brothers. Everything they do, I love, and I have to say though, their new stuff, say since 2000 when they reunited, their new stuff is probably better than their 80s stuff. I have to say, definitely harder. It's definitely harder. Definitely just all around just better music than their 80s stuff. And I don't say that a whole lot, and so, but yeah, they are awesome dudes. I hear all kinds of good things about them. So
absolutely, man.
Sweet. So I guess, do you have anything else that you want to talk about or any other topic that we didn't touch here yet?
Yeah, I'll just kind of tell you where we are and where we're going from here. The very first thing I try to say at the end of all interviews is we're in a very weird time. I mean, everybody knows what we've gone through over the last year and a half-ish. We know that bands have not been working. Bands have not been able to make income. One thing that, and I want to use the word a lot, but there a sizable population of people take music for granted and they don't support the bands. They just listen to free accounts on Spotify, whatever the case may be. That's it. They don't support the bands. If you only do that, there is going to come a time where the bands are not going to be able to afford to produce music anymore. And it's going to end. This time, bands need people, they need fan base help more than they ever have. Now's the time not to listen on Spotify. Now's the time to pick up the album, to buy the merch, because you can't go to the shows yet. That's where the bread and butter is. Do whatever you can to support your favorite bands so that they continue to bring you music that has been enhancing your lives for many years. Yeah. Continue to do that as much as possible. Yes, things are going to open, but right now, I mean, bands are struggling. We're definitely in that too. So now's the time to support. Please do it. Take care of your bands, buy the merch, buy everything that you can. And, you're going to get something that keeps giving back. Exactly. I definitely want to make sure I tell you that. And as far as what's coming up, when this tour announcement happens, this is going to be really big. We've also got another video we haven't dropped yet that we're waiting on to do. A couple shows in July. So we've got a lot coming up. But right now, I've just upgraded my studio system because I'm actually going to be mixing and mastering the next album, which is going to be great because it's going to be sort of an in-process mix as we track it. So hopefully it's going to trim off, 9 months to a year, because the way we had to do it before, we would track it, we would send it out to Bill Matoyer for mixing. Mm-hmm. We'd get bumped for body count because they'd need something an emergency or Armored Saint or something. Yeah. We poke Bill about that, but yeah, he's great. He's just got a lot on his plate. And so long story short, man, I'm neck deep into the 6th album. And I can tell you right now, just from where I am at today's snapshot, I have incredibly high hopes for this one too. I was a little concerned because I thought I'm not going to be able to even remotely come close to Angelborn because of how personal that is. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of let that go. And I thought, let me just let this be what it's going to be. And I let it evolve, and it's already turning into something incredibly special and personal. So I'm just going to keep mashing the gas, man, and we'll just keep doing it. That's
awesome to hear. I'm glad. I'm real glad that you're working on new material as well. And it'll be out probably sooner than later now, since with all the shutdowns and all that stuff. So that probably definitely helped sped the process up.
Yeah, well. It definitely did. And I don't know if we would be. 2022 might be a little ambitious just because it's hard to release an album each year now. Back in the 80s, when you were a musician, that was what you did. Now you work a full-time job or jobs along with being a musician. So you have to divide your time. It takes a lot longer to do stuff. So,
Yeah.
hey, we're just going to get it out as soon as we can, but without compromising its integrity. I mean, it's, you know, you've seen the amount of years in between albums sometimes. It's just because of what it is. I don't put anything out unless I think it's to the point to where it should be.
Yep.
So,
gotcha. All right. So, and then our final question that we always like to ask the artists that we're interviewing is, what do you love about music so much?
Man,
I know you touched on that a lot, but
you know, let me tell you something, man. We live in a world where from the day you're born to the day you die, every single thing is planned out for you. You're born, you're an infant, you're going to go to school for 12 years, you're going to grow up, you're going to get a good job, you're going to feed the man and be basically a drone until you can reach retirement, if you're even lucky to do that, and then you're dead.
Yeah.
So your entire life is pretty much laid out for you. It's just the way it is. You know, you have kids, you get married, you do all the everything that I was just like, when I was a kid, I was like, really, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't really like what I'm supposed to be doing. Music is the most awesome release in the world. Music is a drug that does not have side effects, except for maybe some hearing loss. Music takes you to the best place ever. Music takes you away from the bad places. It's a time warp. You hear a song, it takes you right back to the most amazing time in your life. I listen to Awaken the Guardian by Fate's Warning. It's just, it takes me back to the best time.
Oh yeah.
It just puts me in this zone of just like where everything is amazing. I mean, it's therapy. I mean, in creating music, I mean, when you're in a world where you don't really have much control over your life, so to speak, you know, you're pretty much sheep.
Yeah.
This is a place where you can create your own world and give animation to something that doesn't have life. You can lift people, you can unite people. Music is something I've said before. Music speaks past the intellectual, and it speaks to the spirit. And when you speak into the soul, you have the ability to change. I mean, that's an emotional thing. You can evoke emotion out of that soul. You can lift it. You can crush it too.
Yeah.
Music is so powerful. Music breaks down race barriers, culture barriers, language barriers. I did an album with a band in Guatemala called Dread the Forsaken. They flew me down there. I mean, the drummer and I couldn't even communicate the first year. We were jamming, but we were so on the same page. Yeah. I mean, we were watching each other. We had a massive respect for each other, but we couldn't even communicate because I didn't speak Spanish and he didn't speak English. But the music united us in such a way. We were brothers and we couldn't even understand each other.
Yeah. Common language. It's a common language. It is.
I mean, it's in my opinion, one of the most powerful forces that we have.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, and that's an awesome answer to that question. So everything was. We just appreciate you being on here with us, Gordon. Go. What were you gonna say?
Well, something I'm gonna say too, and you know, I appreciate you saying that. I always tell you know, my press people anytime I can. I said, listen, you appreciate us, but you have to understand that there is a massive mutual respect and appreciation, because without radio, without press, without people getting us out there, how would we get out there? People like you are directly helping us live our lifelong dreams. So you're a natural ally. So we appreciate you very much. And so thank you, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
Right, man,
and I'll see you Saturday. And if we're not allowed to announce that tour information by Saturday, I'll tell you about it.
All right, man. That sounds good. So, hey, guys, if you like our interview here, you like what we're doing on the channel, Krash and Thunders, with our reviews, reactions, artist interviews, like here with Gordon Tittsworth of Images of Eden, and Maiden America as a little side project. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, leave a comment. I'm sure Gordon will be here to check out everyone's comments on the video. But
absolutely,
yeah, so definitely, Gordon, we thank you for being here, and until next time, guys, I'm Krash, and this is the Krash and Thunders show, and we'll see you guys later.
All right, take it easy, brother.